Hey everyone, welcome to another virtual program brought to you by Pamunkey Regional Library. My name's Ace. I work out at the King and Queen Branch Library, and we're about 20 minutes down the road from the King and Queen Branch at a local mushroom farm. So we're going to be touring how gourmet mushrooms are grown. Behind me is Rappahannock River Mushrooms. The owner is Dave Boso, and he just started mushroom farming in November. So you kind of get to see kind of how a mushroom farm starts, and maybe some problems and things that he's gone through to get to this point. I just took a small tour, and it's really awesome. So I'm really excited to bring you this program today. If you wanted to find Dave and his mushrooms, he does local markets throughout Richmond and the Middle Peninsula. In Richmond, he does the Carytown Farmers Markets on Sunday, the Birdhouse Farmers Market on Tuesday. He does the West End Farmers Market on Saturday, and then on the third Saturday of the month, he does the Rappahannock Farmers Market, which is near the King and Queen Branch Library. So not going to say too much. I'm going to let Dave do the talking, and we're just going to go through the process, maybe starting from beginning to end, and you can see how mushrooms are grown. I think it's a really awesome process, and I think mushroom farming has kind of exploded within the past maybe 5 to 10 years. A bunch of local growers doing small scale operations, but still growing massive amounts of mushrooms. So really excited to bring you this. Okay, so here we are. I got Dave standing with me.
Hey guys.
And we're kind of at the beginning of the mushroom process here. But before we go through that, I just wanted to ask Dave, how did you get into mushroom growing?
Well, originally we were living in Portland, Oregon, and I was a real estate broker, and I had a client that was selling a property. It was an indoor marijuana grow, and the property was being sold to somebody that was going to transition it into a gourmet mushroom grow. So I kind of got interested in it a little bit, talked to the new owners, and they referred me to a book by Paul Stamets about mushroom growing, all about mushrooms. So I started looking at that book and reading through it, and his name sounded kind of familiar. So I looked at the author page, and I found out that him and I grew up within about 10 miles of each other in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of felt that that was kind of the trigger that said maybe this is meant to be.
Yeah.
So we were going to move back to Virginia. We moved back, spent about 6 months still working in the real estate business, and then had a small stroke. So it kind of took me out of the real estate business, and I had to do something. So got this started, and it's been going ever since.
That's awesome. And for those of you that don't know, Paul Stamets is kind of like the king of mushroom mycology world. He's doing a ton of research, and kind of everything that we're going through, Paul Stamets kind of started in one way or another, inspired a lot of mushroom growers. And we do have a few of his books at the library too, if you want to check some out. How to Grow Gourmet and Medicinal Mushrooms is one of them. And so behind us, you want to kind of walk us through how mushrooms start. I see we have a pressure cooker here. We have some grains.
Yes. To start off, originally, I took some advice from other growers, and I kind of worked backwards. There's a lot involved in this and getting mushrooms growing. So what I did, I purchased established mushroom blocks, built my grow room, and just started growing blocks that somebody else had made, and kind of learned the business and learned how to grow and learned how to sell it to the farmer's market, that kind of stuff. And then as I got better at it, then I got the equipment and started from scratch and started doing my own blocks, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And basically what we do is I order liquid spawn, and this is the actual mushroom in here. I order it from my Mycelium Emporium. Great guy, his name's Lenny, he's out of Maine, does good products. We take grains, which is whole oats. I soak them for about 24 hours in just plain water. Then I strain them out. We put them in a bag. We fold the bag over. We then put 4 of them in a pressure cooker. I pressure cook this for 2.5 hours at 15 psi. Take it off the heat, let it cool completely, and then we basically take these into our lab that we built in the bedroom. Just like any starting farmer, you use what you've got. So we take it into the bedroom in the lab, and then I inoculate it with the syringe. I put about 2 cc's of liquid culture in each bag, and then I put it in the colonization room, and I leave this sit and colonize for about 30 days. And what you do, you'll get mushroom growing in there, and we can show you a picture of that as we go. And then after that is done, we make our blocks. And what I use is the master's mix, which is half oak sawdust and half soybean hull sawdust. The soybean hull sawdust gives it that increased nutrition, so you have a quick grow. Instead of, you know, what you're used to out in the wild being 6 months, we can get it down to about 30 days, 40 days.
Yeah.
So it's real effective. And if you want to kind of walk in here, we can kind of show you what the lab looks like.
Yep.
And then we'll go into a colonization and then go out into the grow room, and you can kind of see where it goes from there.
Yep, that sounds awesome. And I just want to say, one reason that you have to use all this equipment when you're mushroom farming is sterilization, and keeping contamination like molds and stuff down is really important when you're mushroom farming. Because out in the wild, Mother Nature kind of takes care of it all. So you have all sorts of contaminants, but that's just a natural way that mushrooms grow. So when you're doing this type of stuff, one piece of contaminant in your grow bag can ruin the whole bag, and it just molds and deal with all sorts of stuff. So that's why as we'll go through, you'll see all of these pressure cookers. So this is basically just sterilizing it, so there's no good or bad bacteria in the bag. And then and also there's hundreds of different ways to grow mushrooms. So this is just kind of one of them.
Right.
And Dave, even as I've been talking to him, I just met him this year. He's been improving his process pretty much every single week. He comes up with something. Hey, I did this, and it works so much better. So it's been really cool to see, and it's also inspiring that you don't really need, you know, a lot of stuff to start growing. You know, Dave just kind of dived into it, and you know, you just figure things out as you go, and making small improvements is just kind of how it goes. Learning from your mistakes and building on what works.
Yeah, it is definitely the type of farming where you definitely learn from mistakes.
Yes.
If you're not making a mistake, then you're not maximizing your potential.
Exactly.
So,
Awesome. So we'll go into the next room.
okay.
Okay, so here we are in the laboratory, and I think it's really cool what Dave has done here. Because the laboratory, it's got to be extra sterile, because when you come in here, you've already sterilized your bags. So it's important to keep that sterilization going in order to get mushrooms. So I'll let Dave talk about this a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, so basically what happens after we get done with the grain spawn, getting it sterilized, I bring it in here. I sit it right here. I've got a laminar flow hood here and one below, and this is basically large HEPA filter. So it's filtering the air constantly. Each one of these filters about 200 cubic foot of air each minute. So it's taking all the bacteria, all the spores, fungus, everything out of the air, so nothing gets into the grain. So what I'll do, I'll take the grain and I use the syringe, regular needle, isopropyl alcohol. We spray everything down. We spray our hands, spray the bags, everything. And then what I will do is put an injection port on the bag, just like you get when you get a shot at Walmart or wherever. I put that over the bag, wipe some alcohol on it to make sure it's sterile, and I inject. That's the CEO of the company complaining. So once that's done, I just seal the bag with a sealer here, and then I take the bag and I put it in the colonization room. Leave it in there for about 30 days until it colonizes, and then I use that grain spawn to colonize the actual grow material and grow the mushrooms. As you can see here, these are large blocks. This is what will grow the mushrooms. So we can show you. So after the grain spawn is completely inoculated, and we use that to kind of expand out the mushroom seed as it is. When we do that, we take these blocks. This is a substrate of, again, oak sawdust and soybean hull sawdust. And again, we use the laminar flow hoods. We put it in front of the hood, open up the bag, and then we dump about 2 to 3 ounces of the grain into here, reseal it, and then this block will go into the colonization room. It'll be in the colonization room for about 30 days, and in a minute we'll take a walk in there and you can see what the bags look like as they colonize.
Awesome. Okay, so here we are in the colonization room, and if you don't know a whole lot about mushrooms, most of the mushroom is actually underground. It's called mycelium, which is this white stuff that you see, and it's basically really microscopic tubes, and in like 1 square inch of good soil there could be like miles and miles of this mycelium. And if you think of if you compare a mushroom to a tree, this will be like the actual tree, and then the mushrooms will be the apples. So that's just kind of like a good analogy. Even though mushrooms are more closely related to humans than plants, actually, because they exhale carbon dioxide and inhale oxygen. So that's kind of a misconception. Sometimes they think they're vegetables, but they're kind of in a whole class of their own. So I'll let Dave talk kind of a little bit more about the colonization and that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing. The mushroom, we don't realize how large it is. It's actually the largest organism in the world. The honey mushroom in the Blue Mountains of Oregon the single organism covers over 4,000 square acres. So it is considered the largest single organism in the world. So everything you see is very small compared to what's underground.
Yeah.
So what we're doing here is, this is the grain spawn, the initial, and this is what it looks like after it colonizes. You see the white, and basically what we do then is we will crush this all down to individuals, and then we will use that. I'll just cut the top off of the bag and we'll dump it into the large blocks. And the large blocks are what you see here. This is the actual substrate, the oak and the soybean hull. And
if you want to get close up here, this is he just dumped the grain into the fruiting bag. So this is what will eventually fruit mushrooms, and this is the master's mix that he was talking about. So the grain goes into here, then the grain colonizes this bag, and then eventually will go into the fruiting room to fruit mushrooms.
As you can see, this was just in one day how it's starting to spread out and starting to eat the substrate. Yeah. And then what you'll see after about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, you'll get something that looks like this. It becomes hard, and that's just what we call completely colonized.
Yeah.
So this one will be ready in about a day or two. You can see there's still a little bit on the bottom that hasn't colonized. So in about a day or two, I'll be able to take them out and put them in the grow room, make a small cut, and that's where you'll see the mushrooms grow.
Yep, and I think that's where we will be going next.
Yes.
Yep.
What you'll find out if you're interested in growing mushrooms is you will use whatever is available. It can be expensive to go full blown into it with the equipment that you need. As you can see, this is a bedroom in my house. So this is my third bedroom. My second bedroom is actually where the lab is at. And then I've got a shed outside at 12 by 24 that's the grow room. And then another shed that is actually the refrigeration room. So we'll move out to the grow room next.
Okay, so now we're at the fruiting room, and this is where all the magic happens. So the blocks come from inside the house and go into this shed, and it's awesome in there, so we'll get right to it. So here we are, and I guess we'll start off by, you want to tell us some of the different types of mushrooms that you're growing?
Sure. Right now we are looking at growing shiitakes, blue oysters, black pearl oysters, chestnuts, lion's mane, maitake, chicken of the woods, and chestnuts.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll just kind of walk around, and each mushroom has kind of their preferable substrate. So as you can see, shiitakes, which we have right here, are grown a little bit differently than it looks like your oyster mushrooms.
Right. What you'll see here, and this gets back to what you were talking about, contamination.
Mm-hmm.
These are going to have to be removed today. As you can see here, this is what happens when you have contamination. So basically you lose your mushrooms.
Yeah.
That you have to pull everything out and you have to re-clean the room. Basically I clean this room at least once a week with a bleach solution to keep the contamination down. You're going to always have a little bit because naturally it has to have air to grow, but that's some of the things that you run into. When things work out well, then you'll get this is what a mushroom looks like growing on the block. This is a black pearl mushroom. This mushroom will give you about 3 pounds.
And then just to kind of give them an idea how quick, so this is probably like a few days old, and these are kind of what they call pins. So to start off, you see how small it is, and then how long later do you think it becomes a big?
Usually, depending on your conditions in the grow room, and it naturally weather still has some effect on the inside. We do have air conditioning units to keep it cool. We've got a large humidifier to set the humidity where it needs to be. But again, outdoor weather, when you get into the upper 90s, it definitely has an effect. So these will take from pinning stage to grow stage somewhere between 5 and 8 days, depending on what the conditions are like.
I think it's a common misconception that mushrooms like darkness, right?
Right.
The fruits like a little bit of light.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
Basically what I do, and different growers use different lights and light times. I like to leave my lights on most of the time. I use 6500 Kelvin lights. It's more of a brighter white light. It seems to do the best for the grow, and I get the best colors. And as you can see, I've got 4 LED lights in here, and they stay on almost 24 hours a day.
And then I think one of my favorite mushrooms, and I know the market customers really love this mushroom, is the lion's mane. So if you could just take a look at these are a really interesting mushroom. They're not kind of your typical mushroom. They grow really weird. What are they called? Like teeth almost?
Yeah, that's why they call it a lion's mane, because it gives you the impression with the way that the mushroom is, the mane on the lion. People also say they look like a brain, or coral. And getting back to the brain, these have 2 chemicals in them that actually help your brain regenerate neurons. So they're starting to do a lot of research and a lot of testing on using these and the chemicals for Alzheimer's patients and people with brain damage to help regenerate those neurons. So this is the new superfood. Everyone is
been asking for the lion's mane because they're finally learning that it is amazing mushroom.
So if you do get a chance to visit Dave and Market, I highly recommend grabbing you some lion's mane. They are commonly referred to as kind of like lobster meat. when you
Sure,
cook them.
sure. It has a little bit of a
It's got
crab
the
meat
texture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having us out here today, Dave.
No problem. Anytime.
Yep, and feel free to check out Dave at Markets. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube videos. I'll try to answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll ask Dave. And really appreciate you joining along. Hope you learned a little bit about mushrooms and mushroom farming and how kind of small-scale farmers grow mushrooms, how they get started, and I think it's just going to go up from here.